So I have a quote here from the UN Environment Program. This is a little bit more about the fast fashion. Are you familiar with fast fashion? Do you do any of that?
We do not. We are our lead times, it takes us too long to make stuff.
Have you heard of Shein?
The tannery?
No, there's a fast fashion brand called Shein that sort of blew up on social media, and it's a huge trend.
Is that the one that is relatively inexpensive stuff, and they put tons of new stuff every day?
Yes, yeah. And it's incredibly inexpensive.
Yeah, I heard of it. It's factory to consumer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I have heard of that. I forgot the name.
Financially, they're probably doing great, but this article is critical of companies like that, fast fashion type of things. So the fashion industry is the second biggest consumer of water, and it's responsible. This is a big range. It's responsible from 2 to 8% of global carbon emissions. So fashion industry, all of it, not just fast fashion. The average consumer buys 60% more pieces of clothing than 15 years ago, and each item is only kept for half as long. So we're buying more stuff and using it less, which again, to the point that you illuminated to me a decade ago, the product life cycle seems to be
compressed.
The biggest driver, like the denominator of this whole thing. So that's concerning.
Buying more stuff requires more energy and everything to make, which has an impact. And then keeping it half as long and having it end up wherever it's going to end up has an impact too.
But it's so fun. It's so fun to buy new stuff.
It is fun. And I mean, obviously people do think it's fun, and that's why it's so popular.
Honestly, so I've got guitars around here. I love looking at guitars and shopping for guitars. I rarely buy them. And I suspect if a guitar was like $5, I'd have so many guitars. So I think I understand it. It does feel like what they argue for of just shopping your closet first or shopping at a thrift store for like a leather good, for example, is something that's a prime candidate for, being a positive, just to outweigh some of the negatives, I suppose, instead of buying something new. But that's really, like, if I start to think about it, it's like, what makes something more durable and everlasting? I gave a stupid example earlier of like, well, I need a boot or shoe or belt or wallet. I want something that's going to last. So in the case of a shoe, what's the most durable material that exists, right? It's probably some type of metal. Yeah, I don't know. What's durable?
I don't know. I mean,
what's something that's never going to break?
But you can't make a shoe out of that.
Every time I start to think deeply about it, it's like, well, leather seems to be the perfect choice. So it looks good, or can look good. I guess it could look crap. It seems to last. You can polish it up. It's breathable. I actually don't know if the imitation leather stuff is.
I don't think it is, from what I read. I don't have any of it. I haven't worn any of it, but
canvas doesn't last. I wore canvas shoes. If people are going to eat meat, it does seem like leather is a really healthy choice. People have brought up to me the point before. When I go to a party or something and meet new people, oh, what do you do for work? Yeah, I make leather goods. And sometimes the question comes up of, what happens when all meat is lab grown? So I was thinking about it a bit, and I still feel like leather is a good choice because there are going to be animals, but it either means that leather is going to be more expensive or just not be a marketable, like, large scale business. But what do if lab grown meat is now the norm, what do you think happens to your business?
I mean, I don't think it would be around, at least not in the way that it is now. I mean, there might be still some things to tan, or maybe there are lab grown hides, but I mean, we're an industry of byproducts. I mean, we're in Chicago because the stockyards were here and all the animals were coming here, and we were at that time close to our primary raw material.
I mean, does that keep you up at night?
It doesn't, because if that happens, then that's the way that it's supposed to go, and then that's the way that it'll go. I think that may be controversial, but the way we are set up as a country, as a world, the amount of food that we need and the type of food that we eat, has created a certain way of generating that food, and that model exists, and that creates the hides that we use. And those byproducts there's plentiful. There are a lot of hides available.
You're saying you're not being very direct. You're saying it's controversial to eat meat?
I just think I do.
I didn't realize.
I was avoiding.
I didn't realize it was.
I do think because I think that there's some conversation about factory farming, and we know what that looks like and how there's a big impact there, or there can be an impact there, and then there's a move away from that, or an idea to move away from that. But I think that like anything else, that developed to serve a market and to serve a need, and that's why it's around. And that model creates a lot of hides, and we use those hides. And I think that even in a model that is different than that, if you look at something that's more
just full pasture animals,
whatever the ultimate goal is, that's still going to generate that raw material. There'll just be less of it, I think, because I don't think that those methods can sustain the quantities that the current methods do. Not saying that I agree with the methods or I like to be, tied to those methods. I'm sort of ambivalent about that, but
I'm really just putting the screws to you.
Well,
I didn't realize that it was that you were so nervous about it.
No, I'm not nervous. I don't, it exists. It's there. It's pretty, it's not like it's a hidden thing, but it's something I think about. I think about that more than I think about hides going away completely.